Hello and welcome. My name's Peter Sparrow and I work for InnoApps, which are an Oracle Platinum partner for implementing Oracle Cloud applications. Today's presentation will look at a new generation of shared services, why they are necessary and how do they compare with today's shared services. Let's define what we're talking about first of all. It tends to be a single organisation that is centralising its operational tasks. That could be accounting, payroll, human resources, administration, IT, even sales or marketing can be put into a shared service. And they have been extremely popular, really starting off in the 1990s until we see them used right across public and private sector in many different industries. It usually involves centralising the IT applications that support those tasks, and there has been a move to standardise those processes. So whether that is one organisation standardising on a best practice or multiple organisations coming together and adopting a best practice, both models sort of apply there. A shared service can be internally managed by your own staff, or it could be outsourced to a provider. Now that might be your staff working with an IT provider, or the whole process is outsourced through a business process outsourcer. So you'll see that there are various different flavors of shared services in operation. Sometimes the data center will be just a single customer site, or they may be hosting multitude of different applications for many different customers, hundreds of different customers off-site. Now the real drive to this has been because shared services absolutely deliver significant cost savings. And this has been really achieved through the economies of scale of doing one thing in a central place once rather than multiple organisations doing it. And if we look at PwC's recent Connected Thinking survey, and the survey showed that the benefits came down to four main buckets of savings. One is absolute cost savings. The second is really where a lot of these shared services are justified, is in reducing the headcount. There's less staff if you centralise these functions, and an increased efficiency of using these best practices. And particularly where a shared service may be moving out of an expensive head office function in a big city, it has an opportunity to work in a lower cost location. And we have also seen the growth of shared service centres move first over to sort of India, and then another wave moving to Eastern Europe. So again, looking for cost savings in the unit costs of employing those staff doing those activities. Now, if that's such a success, why are we looking at a new generation? Why are we questioning what shared service centres have done? Well, for me, there are three main questions that still remain about that approach. There are economies of scale, absolutely, but there's certainly questions around, has that standardization really evidenced best practices? We're talking about hosting in a data center, so everything's about the cloud, but is hosting in a data center really the same model as cloud applications are delivered today? So is there differences, and are there things that shared service centers can benefit from? Crucially, we should ask the question, what about the customer experience, the internal customer experience from those functions? A reduction in cost in the transactional unit, if you like, but has it built up costs elsewhere in the business? Has customer service, customer responsiveness, and can we really evidence value being delivered? Perhaps the reason I asked these questions in the first place is I've been working in this sector since 1998 and I've seen various different technology waves come and go. And what is quite puzzling sometimes is when I go back and look at some of the operations in customer services and shared services today, then I've got to question whether there's best practices being delivered. So if you think for yourself, if you are currently operating a shared service, how many of these best practices does your shared service deliver? Are all employees able to come into your applications and view their pay slips online, their P60s, their holiday entitlement, and see a personalised benefit? And that's all administered from a single place, and that all flows into the back office. Can they buy the products that they need to do their job from a self-service catalogue with punch-outs to e-commerce sites? And is that all seamless with electronic payment? Do they have to handle paper invoices, or is that all scanned and provided for them? And not only are we talking about customers, but your employees, but also suppliers. Do they have a completely frictionless way of dealing with you? Has your shared service really delivered value add in the accounting function? Can you now close your books more quickly? Are you typically doing a monthly period within a 3-day close or less? Can you provide collaborative budgeting and forecasting, which reduces 50% of the time that if you were using spreadsheets? And so we go on. You can look at paper expenses, can that all be done online, and key performance indicators, that kind of thing. So at the end of the day, we're now looking for more value out of a shared service, and we're looking for this sort of frictionless end-to-end approach to fulfilling an action. So it's not just about the back office, but it's how you connect with your employees, how you connect with your customers, and how you connect with your suppliers to make those processes completely electronic and completely seamless. So as I say, we're asking today, what does shared services ever do for us? And I think we can absolutely say it's a sort of job almost half done. Yes, we've got the lower cost of transaction, but if we really survey current practice, we're seeing that customer experience has suffered. Quite often we're not seeing an end-to-end process, we're seeing something a bit clunky. It's a bit sort of manual and electronic. And that really is hampering a lot of the efficiencies and improvements that could be delivered. You only have to think the last time that you called up a call centre and you had to wait on the line and press different telephone numbers to get through to somebody, quite often never ever actually talking to a human at the end of the day. So this is very relevant today because the expectation of a customer, whether that's an employee or a supplier, has really risen. People are expecting the frictionless approach that would be delivered by modern applications. And I think also that something we really should have a look at current practice within these centres is, has continuous process improvement continued through the use, or was there a improvement in standardisation at the start, but these processes have remained stuck in the past over the last sort of 3 to 5 years, because the pressures that are in the economic environment at the moment, and particularly in public services, there isn't a lot of money to go around, and it's now a question of working much smarter rather than necessarily just keep cutting costs. An area we think that shared services certainly is lagging behind is the use of business intelligence and insight, and really delivering value added into how organisations can improve, grow, win more customers, or deliver a better service to the citizen. So if it's a job half done, how did we get here? Well, the first generation shared services, as I say, as you see for the benefits, was very much a focus on lower cost of transaction through economies of scale. And this meant really getting them together in big complex contracts. So you needed a very large BPO type provider to come in and de-risk and provide working capital in order to get your shared service centre off the ground. And if you look at the financial rewards for those service providers, it wasn't really aligned with continuous process improvement or continued improvement of the customer experience. Excuse me. It was far more linked to adding more customers or adding complexity. So by adding more customers, they would get a new big shot of revenue, and if they were doing more bespoke developments and making more complex, they were providing services that they got compensated for. So very much the alignment of continuous improvement and the financial model that these shared service centres operated were not perfectly aligned. And the commercial imperative also meant you had to onboard new customers very, very quickly, and quite often in a rush they would push them together into this new shared model, and this quite often led to a proliferation of infrastructure, because quite often what was happening was replicating a new customer coming on with it, replicating their old systems in order to get them live. Over time, over the sort of last 5 to 10 years, we've seen a diversification of processes and requirements by as more customers entered, and also a watering down of the sort of efficiencies. A lot of shared service centres, when they were certainly on a BPO, they were contract, they were really around cost of transaction was the focus, and that left a very sort of little capital to invest in innovation improvement or indeed new features from the application. So it's very much about sweating the asset that you already had. And of course technology has moved on, so the generation that are operating today are very much on old non-cloud based single tenancy hosted models, but actually the application technology just has not kept up with the modern cloud applications. And what they've found is with that old technology, it has been increasingly difficult and expensive to upgrade and add new features to it. So what has resulted is atrophy and extra complexity in these shared service centres. And that wasn't really the dream or the vision of what this was about. The problem that has occurred without sharing operations, but without this sort of standardisation, without this continuous improvement, what was wanted was the racehorse, but as you know, a racehorse that is designed by a committee quite often ends up with a camel, which has some splendid features, but it's certainly not the agile, fast animal that you were expecting. So today we see many shared service centres, they thought they were joining the fast lane and they boldly went off into that new lane, but in fact they soon have sort of bogged down in concrete that's set around them and they are feeling stuck, where there are now opportunities for organisations coming into this to utilise the modern cloud applications to perhaps move much more quickly and more agile. So if I put out the picture of what next generation shared services are and how they utilise the cloud, let's look at what good looks like. Here we see by moving to cloud applications, the focus moves from an economy of scale to an economy of effort. Particularly within the Oracle applications, for instance, those modern best practices are built into the application. So there's a question of what best practice, whose best practice to adopt has sort of got away. So it's very much about build it once and use multiple times, and there's a huge economy of effort now in building and onboarding customers much more quickly to bring them into the service and also exit the service, so they can scale up and scale down as required. The opportunity for public sector organisations is to think beyond the processes and also look at common structures. Local authorities do very much of the same things as their neighbours, and they can benefit from a common set of accounts and data structures. And with some flexible extensions, then that can cover 90% of your requirements there. And again, can be an opportunity to share information, collaborate and benchmark across sister organisations. The other great benefit of looking for this new generation of shared services in the cloud is its move to mobile, social analytics and collaboration. They almost come for free because they are built into the Oracle application set. And what this then gives you is a much more modern, much better customer experience, standardized on best practices and a very responsive service. But most importantly, by that standardization of the data and using the new tools with the transactional business intelligence that's built into these applications, then you can start to very quickly move to an outcomes focus. These dashboards are very quickly to put together, and you can see the key performance indicators that you need to run your organization. So no longer do you have to wait the 2-3 years for business intelligence to become a priority once all the other work has been done. You can start with getting data very early on in the first few weeks of using the new service and using this capability. So cloud, we believe, provides fantastic opportunities to rethink a shared service strategy and move much more agilely, adding better value, better processes and better insight for your organizations.